people at the DC Cancer Agency, the nurses and the doctors and oncologists and radiologists, the people at the St. Paul's Hospital neurology unit, as well as the people who helped him in his final hours of the palliative care unit, as well as all of the kindnesses and the tributes and the things that our friends have done for us, just overwhelming things. Everything from getting me from the airport to the hospital to see Lloyd, to bringing me mocha after mocha after mocha to keep me going. Food, just a friendly shoulder to cry on, and ear for me to talk to, for Lloyd to talk to as well. It was overwhelming to the point where I guess this really says something about our friends, but even when Lloyd was home and we were having difficulty getting his appetite up, we put the word out that we needed to have some marijuana for appetite. Which stoked his appetite, which is absolutely not something Lloyd has done before or since, but we put the word out and within a half an hour, whatever that says about our friends, we had it. Problem solved. And then the most comical part was actually watching the two of us try to figure out how to smoke it. Between the two of us, it was not good. But the visits to the hospital, the phone calls, the text messages, the tributes to the Facebook pages that we set up, you guys are amazing. And it is the people in this room that we want to thank for helping Lloyd along in this illness. But one thing that Lloyd won't want us talking about and dwelling on tonight is really the illness and the illness alone. So he was very concerned that we were going to remember that time when he was sick and that time when he was in the hospital, and to exclusion of all the other things. So really tonight is to talk about that time before that and the time that he was in our lives with such vitality and such life and the things that he brought to us. I also want to recognize that it's an oddity of Lloyd's life that he spent almost precisely half of it here and half of it in the Philippines. Lloyd left us, he was 34 years old, but he spent 17 years in the Philippines where he grew up, born and raised in Manila, and 17 years in Vancouver. So his family is here as well, representing the very large family and the very supportive family that they have back home in Manila. So his mother, his father, his sister Jean, his cousin Kenny are here, as well as my parents, Larry and Marilyn Jaworski, are here to support the family side. But tonight is really about the last 17 years of his life and the friends that he has made in Vancouver and the life that he has made. And next week really will be the time for his family to mourn and to pass him on. So tonight is a celebration of what he has meant to us and what he's meant for us. And there might be a little bit of a reverence, there might be a little bit of laughter, but hopefully we can talk about Lloyd during this fun time and kind of reminisce. But Lloyd came here in 1992, 17 years ago as a youngster, 17, 18 years old, and his parents did what they needed to do here and went back to the Philippines. And Lloyd did that very brave thing, which is to seek his own independence. He wanted to be his own person, and he won't be stayed behind. So he established himself in a totally different country across the ocean from where his family grew up and where he was raised, and set out to make a life for himself. And it's really quite interesting when you look back, and we have all of his friends, we look back at all these photographs. We have lots and lots of photographs. You've seen just a very small number of them tonight, but we had a lot of photos that went through. And what struck me is when he was a young guy in Vancouver, what I saw in terms of the progression over these years to what we see today as being this very confident, joyous, energetic person. He just wasn't that at the beginning. That is definitely something that he created for himself. He sort of evolved himself into, and he found his voice. And in doing so, I think he gained that assurance over time that allowed him to become such a good friend to us, that allowed him to become such a good light to the rest of us. So we really want to talk a little bit about that. But in his early years in Vancouver, Lloyd was known for really being involved in theater. That was his big calling in life, was to be on the stage in front of the bright lights and to sing and dance and act and be whatever that was. And I know his good friend Lyndon is here as well, and Lyndon was in some of these performances with him, and there are photographs out in the live of Lloyd performing in Greece and performing in a chorus line and performing in Fiddler on the Roof, of all things. You don't see a lot of Filipinos in Fiddler on the Roof, but Lloyd made it work. So, he was quite a greaser too in Greece. But those photos, when we went through the piles and piles of photos, we realized those are the ones that had to make the final cut because those were critical to Lloyd's formative years and the times that he spent at Theater Under the Stars. that theater, that love for theater, just continued. You know, and there's several people in this room who've been to theater productions with Lloyd, and you know the show tunes that he knows, and you know the musicals that he loves. And as I was taking some things out of his car earlier this week, it was all show tunes. So we all know his love for dance music. We'll talk about that in a moment. But on the show tune side, I mean, he definitely loved all of those theater effects. And Lloyd and I saw so many theater around the country, but so did Brad, and so did a lot of other people with Lloyd as well. So I want to recognize that love of Lloyd. Another thing that was a calling for him really from when he was a youngster was bowling. And I think a lot of people are very shocked by that. I mean, there's a lot of bowlers in this room that have bowled with Lloyd, but you wouldn't believe how good he is. He is a tremendously good bowler. And he learned as a youngster how to bowl, and he learned how to do it properly. And he never stopped trying to improve himself, which was something that I always enjoyed. So despite of a 200 average, a 205 or 210 average, he never stopped. He was constantly improving himself. To the point where last fall he was in Los Angeles visiting me, and he was at a tournament, and he won a coaching session, which I thought he sort of ignored because the man knows how to bowl. But he took it seriously, and he took the coach up, and he had a number of sessions where they videotaped him, and he did his game and added 5 minutes to his score. Luckily for me, he did bowl. So luckily that's what brought him to my door. So luckily I was a bowler as well, never as good as he was. But that coupled with his love of travel aligned the universe just exactly right to put us in the right city, at the right time, in the right place, to change both of our lives forever. And I will certainly be grateful, and I actually believe he would too. So that's when we sort of came together in Kansas City, Missouri in May of 2006 to the bowling tournament of all places. So we really enjoyed telling the story because it's such a shock. I guess it doesn't look like I'm a bowler, I guess, and maybe it doesn't look like he's a bowler. So I don't know what that means for bowlers or for us, but that's the story. So, but Lloyd loves telling that story. And we have 2 very, very dear friends of ours here tonight, Christopher and Todd, who were there at that moment. Thank you guys very much. And they traveled here from St. Louis because they're such good friends of ours and have been with us the entire journey that they were unfortunately here at 30 as well. I want to recognize Lloyd's involvement in volleyball as well, because the volleyballers are here. They're always in the house. But Lloyd loved to play volleyball. And one thing that really spoke to about Lloyd is how competitive he was in terms of spirit, but also his incredible sense of gamemanship and sportsmanship, and his just love of being with other people and his ability to socialize. But those all came together when it came to volleyball. So he out there could physical, he could enjoy his athleticism, he could compete to win. But Lloyd was the first one to high-five somebody for making a shot and beating him. He was the first one to shake off a point if he screwed it up. And he was the first one to acknowledge that, yeah, I did mess it up, no big deal, move on. Lloyd was a competitor, and I think the truest sense of the word. He understood that it's a game. He loved to win. He loved to cream you. But it was still a game. And somebody loses when you play a game. It's all about who makes the best effort. And he tried his darndest to be the person making the best effort. But it was okay if he lost. He just didn't want to do it very often. So that's sort of the different faces of Lloyd. So what I decided when I was kind of thinking about what it is that I wanted to say here about him, because I have 3.5 years worth of material to work with in 20 minutes of time, was what I think is the true message of Lloyd Cobankiat in his time with us. So short, so fleeting, so devastating to me, and I know to all of you that it's leaving us so early. I think he was put here to teach us. And I think there's some very serious lessons that he taught us. I think he taught us that it's worth it to wait for the love of your life. And I'm glad he did. Lloyd had relationships certainly before me, and it's a tremendous credit to him and to the people that he was in relationships with before, with their friends. So Todd, for example, who's here, and Alan, who's here, and Brad, who's here, have all become very good friends of mine, but they all remain good friends with Lloyd, despite the fact that their personal romantic relationship didn't work out. And I thank each one of them individually, and I told Lloyd this when we met and as we developed our relationship. Those relationships before gave him the tools and taught him the things that he needed to learn and to be in order to be what he needed for me. And same thing for me. But thank you for the 3 of you for But I think that's what Lloyd taught us, is you try, and maybe that didn't work out. But you keep your heart open, you're open to love, and it's going to find you. And happily he did. He endured those obvious romantic disappointments that occurred along the way. But the second thing he did is once he did find love, he knew he had it, and he appreciated it, and he embraced it. He was never shy with me, ever, ever, ever about expressing his emotions. He was always, every single day, telling me how much I appreciated. He appreciated our relationship. There was never a day that went by where I didn't feel loved by him. And hopefully all of that occurred the other way around. So I think a good lesson from Lloyd as well is once you found what makes you happy, appreciate it and nurture it and make sure that you continue to value it and make sure you continue supporting it. Another very, very important thing to Lloyd that's going to get a lot of attention is his family. And it was absolutely of paramount importance what was happening with his mother, his father, his brother, his cousins, his aunts, his uncles. He has a very large family. But I always heard about what was going on back home. He enjoyed it when his parents came to visit. He was so proud to take his mom and dad to Las Vegas a few years ago. That was a trip of a lifetime for him. It was something that he wanted to do for them, and it just made him so happy to be able to grow up and to be a man and to be able to turn the tables a little bit and to help his parents and support his parents. So I know that was extraordinarily important to him. But what Lloyd did is also it was very important to him that when he found a person and he found a relationship for him for the rest of his life, as short as it turned out to be, it was important that we be integrated into his family. And before he died, he realized what he called the dream of his life, which is when we went back to the Philippines and we were all together as a family, and that was critical. And what it taught me is that Lloyd appreciated the love of his family and he valued it, but he also wanted to make sure it was on terms that didn't cause him to compromise. And I think that's an important lesson that Lloyd taught us as well. And then I think the one thing that just everybody tells me over and over again, and I never in my entire life would be tired of hearing about it, is just how positive and energetic and just joy-filled this guy was. And he just never had a bad word for anybody. And he just would go out of his way for people where it just astonished me. Even me get astonished the way that he went out of his way for people. And I recall times where we were out bowling, and Lloyd was a very good bowler. He did have, never reached that elusive 300 game. He tried, he was pretty close. I think he might have gotten as close to the 297, I'm not sure about that, but I've seen him where he bowled 8 or 9 strikes in a row. And for all of you that maybe don't bowl that much, it's pretty intense. Once you get a string of strikes going, it's pretty intense. You really want to focus, you don't want to get nervous, you don't want to get upset, you want to keep it going. You bowled at 300, so you know exactly how that goes. I've seen him do that, and he's noticed other people that are important to him on lanes a couple lanes away, and even though he's in his 8th or 9th strike, he sees somebody finishing up 2 lanes away that are usually 20 pins above average, and he'll stop and go over and high-five them and tell them what a great game they had. And that's just my Lloyd. That's what he does. You know, it doesn't matter that he's in the middle of this very important thing that he's trying to achieve his life. So-and-so over there hit a 170, and they bowled a 150, you know, so that's worthy of a tribute, and that's worthy of what he does. In the hospital, the nurses just love him, as you can imagine. So one thing that I just noticed about him when he was in the hospital, and I don't want to talk too much about his illness, but the nurses just couldn't believe that he stopped, and in spite of everything that was going to him, he would thank them. So they would come in, they would ring the buzzer, and he'd come in, and here's what's going on, and they'd take care of it, they'd be heading out the door. Usually he'd thank them right away, but every now and again he wouldn't, and he'd stop them and say, oh, wait a second, and they'd turn around and say, what? Thank you for that. And they'd turn around and leave again. And I'm like, shit, all this stuff going on with this guy, right, you know, in the throes of really his last days, and there was never courtesy that should be extended. It's always thank you and please, and just, he's obviously raised right. What a good guy. But tonight we really want to celebrate him and just recognize that he brings that joy to us, to everybody in this room. You're obviously touched by him in some way that brought you out here. But that's what I saw, and I think that's what you all saw as well, is that everywhere he went, it was hello, you know, are you having a beautiful day? tell me about yourself. And he listened, and he actually remembered it. And it was your birthday, you were going to hear from him, if you saw him on the street, he was going to remember that last conversation that you had. If you scored a good point, he was going to come over and high-five you and tell you what you did a great job on. And we'd be out having dinner or something, and it would just say, hey, remember it's so-and-so's birthday tomorrow, we should go out and do something for him. Or, let's call such and such and have them go out. Maybe we can go out and travel. And travel we did, my goodness, we did. So I think he learned the travel bug from his parents, because when we went through the photos, we were hearing about Japan and China and Europe and North America, and Lloyd wasn't even 15 years old yet, and he went around the world twice probably by that point. And again, I thank him for his travel bug, because I found in Kansas City, Missouri, of all things, which I doubt anything in this room in Kansas City, but it was Lloyd's only time that we ever went. I went maybe 5 times, but I always said the universe sort of did back to us, get us together, because somehow they got us in Kansas City, Missouri at the same time to bowling out. But we went to more exotic places. We went to Montreal, we went to Europe. We just had just the most incredible time last year with some of our friends, and we were just blessed to be able to do it. To France, to Greece, and Rome, all in the Mediterranean. But Lloyd and I have obviously been in Manila. We spent a lot of time with Puerto Vallarta, our favorite spot to go every single year. And Las Vegas, and Palm Springs, and San Francisco, and Chicago, and St. Louis, and just name it. We've been there. In 3 years, we did a lot of travel. And thank goodness too. So I think that's the final lesson that I'll impart from Mr. Cobankiat tonight, which is don't let the grass grow under your feet. We only had 3.5 years together, but we sure acted like we had 7. That the end result was we did more than most people do in a lifetime just in that short period of time. And I remember there were several times where we were told maybe we should slow down again just a bit. Maybe we should just sort of sit in front of the TV and just act like old married folks like the rest of the world. And we said, nah, we kind of like this kind of life. But Lloyd said, no, I want to wait till we see all the sights. I kind of want to do it now. So I don't know that any of us or either of us had a premonition, but it worked out really well for the two of us. So I'm going to miss Lloyd. I'm going to miss him every day for the rest of my life. Every day, every moment. And I don't know what I'm going to do without him. But there's joy in my heart because of him. And he changed my life literally forever. And there are lessons that I have learned from him. And I hope each of you have as well. Because I think Lloyd's time here was to teach us something. And I think he taught those lessons. And we have them now. And it's time that we go. So thank you for being here with us tonight and help us celebrate Lloyd's life. I'll invite you up to speak to anybody who wants to in a few moments. There's one thing I do want to do, and Lloyd asked me to do this, which is to read a poem. And my stepmother Marilee suggested this to us because she felt this was something that was reflective of the kind of love that Lloyd and I had with each other. Everybody told me how special I am, or lucky that I am, I guess is the word, how lucky you are to have Lloyd. And I absolutely agree on that. And Lloyd would be the first one to talk about we're both lucky. But we're lucky because Lloyd was very comfortable in his own skin. He was genuine is the word that people use. Because of that comfort and because of who he was and the free spirit he was and how generous he was in giving his love and giving who he was, he really changed me and allowed me to relax and be sort of that way as well. And that's really what this poem speaks to as well. So the poem by Lloyd Cobankiat is called Love. And it goes, I love you. Not only for what you are, but for what I am when I'm with you. I love you not only for what you have made of yourself, but for what you are making of me. I love you for the part of me that you bring out. I love you for putting your hand into my heaped up heart and passing over all the foolish, weak things that you can't help dimly seeing there. And for drawing out into the light all the beautiful belongings that no one else has looked quite far enough to find. I love you because you are helping me to make of the lumber of my life, not a tavern, but a temple. Out of the works of my everyday, not a reproach, but a song. I love you because you have done more than any creed could have done, to make me good, and more than any fate could have done to make me happy. You have done it without a touch, without a word, without a sign. You have done it by being entirely yourself. Perhaps that is what being a husband means, after all. So I love Lloyd, and I'm thankful for all of you for being here, and we have a little montage to talk about that.
I promise to make this shorter than Joe's. Earlier this year, Lloyd had told Mom that he had lived exactly half his life in the Philippines and half in Vancouver. Little did we know that the finality of that statement. We had hoped he tilted in favor of Vancouver. Anyway, we welcomed Lloyd into our family 34 years ago. He was a beloved son and brother who brought much joy to our lives. He was Dad's favorite, or I would say he was actually everyone's favorite, because he was the baby of our family. Completed our family. He was the life of family. He got this little baby going around all the time. And he had a zest of life. He was always sweet, loving, caring, and thoughtful. He was also adventurous, daring, and fearless. And yes, he did get into a lot of trouble a few times in a naughty kind of way. He would run headlong into things without fear. But even when he was hurt, he wouldn't cry. In fact, he'd do it again to show he was not pleased and to show that he meant to do it the first time around. Dad was very protective of him and would constantly worry about him and run behind him all over the place just to catch him when he falls. So it was with great difficulty that we let go and let him stay here in Vancouver. Mom constantly worried that he'd be alone. She always worried what would happen, he got sick and he's alone and there's no one to take care of him. But in the past few weeks we have seen and we're very grateful and touched with the love and care all of you have shown him. We're so grateful and thankful that you've taken care of our little baby. It warms our hearts to know how much he has touched so many lives and how much you all love him. We thank everyone here tonight, especially those who traveled far and those who flew in just to see him one last time. Thank Joe, Ty, and all his numerous friends, too numerous to mention, who worked day and night to give him this wonderful memorial, and who loved him so much and took care of him for us all these years. You are his second family. And though his life was short, he lived life to the fullest. We all know that. He had a wonderful life, a meaningful life, a worthy life. So now we have to say farewell to you, Lord, our beloved son and brother. It's difficult to let go again, but we know that we need not worry. We know you'll be blessed with love, peace, and happiness as you move on to your next family, God's family out there. God bless you. We will miss you a lot. We love you so much.
That was great. Thank you so much. I know that was hard for you to do, so thank you. At this point, I want to invite any others that want to speak about Lloyd. Maybe the first time that you met him, maybe the funniest time you met him, maybe a time where he did something specifically that stuck out in your mind, and maybe it was the last time. So think about that for a moment. I know we'll pick one or two of the Todds who, which Todd wants to come and say something first?
I have the pleasure of saying, or at least Lloyd telling me, that I was his first partner. I met Lloyd in his last year at university. I was there when he graduated, and it was a proud state of his life. His parents were there, and the joy in his eyes that day day was just something special. I was the guy that got dragged from bowling alley to watch him bowl. And he even let me win once. Just once. Just to make me feel good. I bowled probably 110, but I won. Musicals. Too many to count. I've seen him sing. I've seen him dance. He's a great person. We were together for 4 years as partners, but our friendship never, ever, ever died. It still will never die. I have a poem I'm going to attempt to read. You're my friend, and that is true. But the gift was given from you to me. We went through moments that were good and bad, even moments that were happy and sad. You supported me when I was in tears. We stuck together when we were in fear. It's really sad that it had to be this way, but it was reached its very last day. Miles away can't keep us apart because you'll always be in my heart. Lloyd gave me a little candle holder that had these words on it that I cherished and lived by even before this day. And it says that true friendship is seen through the heart, not through the eyes. Lloyd will miss you so much, but you'll always be with us. Love you.
And you don't have to be named Todd to speak tonight. You do have two in a row. My partner Christopher and I have known Joe for many years. We're from St. Louis, and so because we knew Joe perhaps a little bit better, we thought one of us should speak tonight, which meant naturally Christopher could lean down into the aisle and volunteer. My sort of story, I have two stories, and they both begin and end the same, which is our friend Joe Jaworski has never been happier than since he met Lloyd. I know that he said that to you, but I wanted you to know from a friend of his who's known him for a long time. And I can demonstrate that through two stories. The first is, by the way, I'm from Kansas City. I was born there, so some people are actually from Kansas City. When Christopher and I first met Lloyd, it was well before Joe had ever met Lloyd. Probably by a good 30 minutes. We were bowling with Lloyd. He was easily noticeable, given that it was a gay bowling tournament, and Lloyd was under 50 and under 350 pounds. We became good friends right away. We were hitting it off very well. And apparently we had to go to the restroom for a bit. When we went to the restroom, our good friend Joe Jaworski came down, saw an opening, introduced himself to Lloyd. So when we came out of the restroom, we saw Joe, and I said, "Well, you still standing here, Lloyd?" I said, "Joe, let's introduce you to a new friend of ours. This is Lloyd. Lloyd is Joe." And then for 2.5 years, I've been telling that story, that we introduced Lloyd to Joe. Until recently, Joe said, "Todd, I just didn't have the heart to tell you at the time. We already met. You had that whole introduction thing down. I didn't want to break your heart." But we knew they'd get it off right away because that night we had alternate plans to hang out with Joe. It didn't happen. Maybe we thought Lloyd would come. It didn't happen. We didn't see them that night, but we did see them the next morning when we got up for breakfast. They were eating breakfast downstairs together, and I just thought, well, that's something because Joe doesn't normally get up this early for breakfast. So we knew they hit it off then. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, and Joe's already said this today, which is he wanted this to be more of a celebration. So the thing that we didn't talk about much in Joe's speech, I thought we would, was dancing. The other area where Christopher and I would join Lloyd a lot is dancing. We would actually plan sort of vacations, not necessarily with them, but to be in the same spots as them. So we would go to San Diego, we would go to Los Angeles, we would go to Whistler, and make sure that Joe and Lloyd would be there so that we could dance together. They truly love dancing, as you saw on all of those pictures. They love to dance a lot. They dance all the time. And so I thought somebody should say what is the, in fact, elephant in the room. Lloyd is a terrible dancer. Bless his heart, he's just awful. To his credit, Joe wasn't much better. So there they are on the dance floor, sort of just hopping up and down together. And they would do that in Los Angeles and in San Diego and
to see Lloyd, and Lloyd would say, hey, where's Christopher? And I'd say, well, I don't know, I haven't seen him in 20 minutes, he's fine. And that's fairly typical. It was never that way with Joe and Lloyd. And I can honestly say that I never saw them in all the times we were dancing more than 2 feet apart from each other, ever. I never saw them more than 2 feet apart from each other. And that would be for a 5-hour dance. They loved each other so much. You could tell in the way that they looked at each other, in the way that they danced with each other, hopped with each other. It was something to see. And so I just wanted to end sort of the same way I began, which is I can tell you factually true that our friend Joe here has never been happier in his whole life than since he met Lloyd. So I give this speech as a celebration to Lloyd, to Joe, to love.
I don't know if I'm touched or offended. Lloyd was actually a phenomenal dancer, but you know. And Bobby and I were here, and I think Bobby does it probably the best. The head bob probably is most similar to how Lloyd dances, but he has a very, I don't want to say peculiar, but it's not peculiar, it's just distinctive dance. So, anybody else wants to say anything special about Lloyd or how they touched you or anything along those lines? Well, good. Well, thank you very much for both of you for speaking tonight. What I'd like to do is we really talked about what I think of Lloyd and where he's at, and we had a couple of people talk about him from their perspective as well as Gene from the family perspective. But I wanted to represent sort of Lloyd's perspective. And we actually know Lloyd's perspective on all of this. So the blessing of what happened to him is that in his illness, he sort of revealed his true self. So he's very concerned that we're going to remember Lloyd sick. And that's part of the whole purpose of this, is to remember Lloyd before he was sick, so we don't have that. And the photos remind you of all those things. But in his illness, he sort of revealed the true character of him. Like I said, he said thank you, and he was very respectful and very polite. But the amount of courage and the amount of dignity that he displayed running through this entire process is another lesson that Lloyd taught us. But one thing that he did do is he faced his death squarely. He knew it was coming. He was the one who acknowledged it to us. He was the one calming us and reassuring us that it was going to be okay. But when he knew the end was drawing near, and he assured that he knew the end was drawing near, he made a point of calling in those people that were truly closest and dearest to him, including a lot of these folks over here, his family back in the Philippines, my family, and just saying it, I'm dying. I'm not going to be here much longer. But I want to tell you that I love you, and that you're a good friend of mine, and I appreciate you being here for me. Lloyd did this over and over and over again with some of his dearest and closest friends, calmly and reassuringly. And thank goodness for us, too, because we got to say goodbye, and he got to say goodbye to us. But there was a message, and I was sitting through all of these that came through, and that's what the next song really conveys, is that message back to Lloyd, which is, yes, this is sad, and yes, it's a shame that he's leaving, and it's absolutely unfair, and it's completely tragic. But what Lloyd said to every single person is, find a way to be happy. Figure out a way to find your happiness, and go and do it, and be responsible for that. So this next montage is really Lloyd before he was sick, when he was smiling and he was happy, and really his message back to us saying, smile. I know it's sad, but smile, and find a way to be happy with yourself.
You'll find that life is still worthwhile. You just smile.
now I'm going to recognize some of the key people in Lloyd's life in terms of his friends. And a lot of funerals have pallbearers, but we don't have a requirement for that. But this particular service, we're going to have torchbearers. And these are the people that, the 5 couples really that Lloyd and I hung out with. I mean, out in all sorts of couples and traveled the globe with in a lot of ways. So I'm going to bring up Rob and Eric, Ty and Steve, Brad and Edwin, Jay and Mark, and Peter and David. So these 10 characters joined with Joe and Lloyd or Lloyd and Joe, and we did all the fun stuff together. So what we want to really do at this point in the service is recognize that what Lloyd did for us is provide that smile that was contagious. And he really shared his light with all of the people in this room. And so we want to symbolically share that light here tonight as we say goodbye. Well, Lloyd's life is really shared really most intimately with these 10 guys here, plus me. So really, Lloyd's life is shared with everybody in the room. So we'd like to all share the life of Lloyd. goodbye has been important. Now it's that time that we all dread, where it's time to say goodbye. So we remember Lloyd, we remember his life, we remember his lessons. Lloyd left us too soon, he left us at 34 years of age. And it's a tragedy that he's gone. So tonight is time to say goodbye. help the back row first to come up to say their last goodbyes.